Mr. Douglas. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here, especially during this hard time, with the civil war going on between the South and the North. I really appreciate that you have allowed me to come here and to interview you.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, thank you so much.
May I ask for your permission to take account of your words today here?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. My first question here. Before we get to questions, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here again. I'm a huge fan, truly am, and I've read your book, the narrative that you've made about your experiences, and I would like to first go deep into your childhood. But before that, will you please say your name and give the meaning behind your name? Because I read in your book that your name was originally Frederick Bailey instead of Frederick Douglas. Please explain that for me, please.
My real name was Frederick Augustus Bailey, and that was the giving name that I was given as a slave, and when I escaped, I decided to change my name, give my name a new start. I didn't want to be connected to my past of slavery, so Douglas is what I chose.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what were the names of your parents?
Unfortunately, I never met my mother. Because we were separated, she continued to work in the same place that she worked, and I was moved somewhere else. And she was also moved as well, so there's no way of me being able to really rekindle a relationship. But I was raised by my grandmother, for quite a bit.
In your book, you explained a lot about moving around. How did you feel? Did you make any friends, make any relationships during those times? And what area in your life during those shifts made a great significance to you?
Well, that time I moved a lot, as you have said, and you know what? I might as well just explain to you that the whole period of my life. I moved from one of my owner's house to his daughter's house, where I worked there, and during my stay there, I had a nice relationship with his daughter, Lucreta. But unfortunately, she became colder and colder towards me, and moved back to my owner, which she eventually died, and I moved back to their household where she died, and I was taken over by her husband, where he sent me back to a dock because I was quite rebellious. He was a man who really tried to beat me into obedience, but I never listened to him. Then we worked on the dock, and I feel like during that time of moving, I was really influenced by my master's wife, or I should say Lucreta, sorry. She was the one who introduced me to education and reading and writing and speaking. Um, I thank God every day for that exchange, that purchase, if you want to say. I don't know, but yeah. How did it make me feel? Well, I mean, as a slave, do my feelings really mean anything? You know? But now as a free man, looking back, I don't know what I felt. It became such a normal thing to me that I didn't know what I felt. But I knew this wasn't for me. I knew that this wasn't freedom. I knew that this wasn't right at all. And I knew that change had to be done. Being moved around like packaged goods. Imagine that. Imagine being worth no more than packaged goods.
You said that your best was at the Olds family. Why? Why was that one of your most memorable and key moments of your life?
I see you read the book. Lucreta Old and her husband, they were my best experiences there because, like I said, they gave me the idea of how powerful education was. Lucreta Old started off teaching me the alphabets, but one day her husband caught me in one of her lessons and said that once you teach a Negro how to read, he cannot be kept. And after that day, she stopped. She stopped teaching me. And then whenever I've shown interest or she caught me with literature in my hand, she would get angry, very much angry. And which made me think and realize how quickly she changed, how powerful. The idea that I, a slave, a black man, a subordinate to the white race, how powerful I could be if I knew how to read. That information is what broke my mentality, broke this helplessness in my life. That was my key. That was my key to freedom. I went out. I learned secretly with some boys and white boys who went to school regularly, and they taught me how to read, how to write, taught me what I knew and what I needed to know. Yeah. That time, I think, if that never happened, if that interaction between Mrs. and Mr. Old never happened, I would have never. I would not be here today. I would have not dreamt of escaping.
Now, done with your family and your background, I'd like to know more about your escape. I feel like everyone does. Your book goes into it where you talk intimately about how you escaped and how you felt. May you expand on that?
Let me just give you the whole story then. I had attempted an escape, as you might have read in the book, this is before I was in Baltimore with Mr. Ald's land, where I attempted an escape with a few other slaves, but that failed terribly, and I was sent back to my master. And during the time, I was trembling with fear of what he would do to me, but as you can see, I'm still alive here. And during this time, I was so tired. Mr. Old got more angry, got more harsh. He would beat me even more than he would do before, and he was getting older. He was getting older, and I was getting tired of resisting, and I kind of did not want to I thought that fighting for freedom was pointless at this, But I got my spirits up, and Ald rented me out in Baltimore to work on docks. And there I met two important people who truly, truly helped me escape. I had planned to escape with them too. I had gotten papers from this black sailor, his seaman's protection papers, which stated that he was free, and he gave it to me, lent it to me to use. And I met this woman, a free black woman by the name of Anne Marie. And I fell in love with her, and she lended me money to buy a ticket. And gosh, I was scared. Like, I was so scared because I knew I could not make a mistake. I could not. I had already attempted to escape, and it was only God who had saved me from whatever decision that Mr. Ald would have made. But I got on the train, and the conductor came by, and I was literally going crazy because first thing, the protection papers, weren't legit, in my name. They were in my name, and the picture that was on it didn't look like me. And I was so scared. You don't know, like, I was so scared. So the conductor came, he checked it, and we talked a bit. I used some of my sailor knowledge that I got from the dock, and got through. The amount of relief and stress that was just moved away from me was immense. At the time, I rejoiced because I knew I've met freedom. Freedom at last.
After your escape, what did you do?
After my escape, I got married to Anne in New York, and I started to look for jobs. Around, but while I was there, I was relieved. I was happy. That it was so surreal. Like, I lived my whole life as a slave until that escape, until that night in 1838. 20-year-old me escaped into this new world of freedom. Static. So me and Anne got married, and I went to go find a job where I became a preacher. I got my preacher license. Started preaching around 1840, 1841, around that time, and I think that time, that job, that specific job, really nurtured me, really nurtured my speaking abilities, helped me to debate, helped me to give speeches, preach and pray, and it expanded my love for music too. I also later on was discovered by William Lloyd Garrison, a famous abolitionist at my time, when I was like really young, 20s, and he asked me to be a editor for one of his papers, and invited me to a convention to talk, and to really give my point of view, give my experiences on slavery. What made you want to go from a preacher to this grand abolitionist? You know, like, couldn't you have just stayed as a preacher and stay free, or just stayed who you are? You know, like, you didn't have to go out into the world and preach and talk about these things, but yet you chose to put your risk. You chose to risk your life. Because I saw how beautiful freedom was. Freedom was something that I couldn't just have on my own. Like, I know I got my freedom, but the guilt that I felt when I saw other slaves, when I thought about my life and how I saw my family, people that were close to me in slavery, I couldn't just sit there, especially with the opportunity that was handed to me by Garrison to go speak at the convention in 1841. I had to do it for my people. You've shown great leadership over these years of this great time of chaos, especially now that, you know, the Civil War is happening and we're 2 years in and we don't know the outcome of this. Truly, we don't. Do you believe that you've had any influence? You know, I personally believe that you have. I believe that your words, your ability to capture the audience and put them in your great work, put them in your book, it's great. Stop it. You're flattering me. No, seriously, I am not, trying to give you flattery or anything, but, I believe that this book here and your speeches, like, what is 4th of July to a slave? And your speech about bringing forth more recruitments, more black recruitments to the Civil War, to fight, to fight for their honor. I believe that your influence has brought life. What do you believe that you have done for this country? What is your service? I say one of my influences have been teaching black people to learn, to continue learning, to continue talking. Say another influence would be fighting for the freedom of speech. Another influence would be my relationship with Lincoln, our president. We have meetings now and then, talking about what we could do, what could better us. I would say that I've just influenced people to think, people to understand that slavery needs to end. Enough about your influences and about your relationships, and I just want to know, what are your thoughts on this war? What are your thoughts about your life? What are your thoughts about just anything right now? Truly, I think that this war was inevitable over the past 10 years. with the expansion of the West, with the obtaining of new territories and claiming if this is going to be a free state, if this is going to be a slave state, if Southern popularity is going to take control, bleeding Kansas, the Senate even going against each other physically, and then Lincoln's election. It was inevitable. But I think that this war that we're in was needed. Truly. Was very much needed for slavery to end. Because that has been the number one main issue for all our problems for the past hundreds of years. Slavery. How can we call ourselves a country of freedom and justice and liberty for all man when we have people underneath us working for us that we treat as objects? The stubbornness of the South, and the unwillingness of the North. This war was needed very much.
Thank you so much for having me here today. That's all I have. Yeah.